We are now on the video record. Are there any rules, stipulations, or orders that need to be considered?
Well, we're here pursuant to an order of the tribunal, and we're going to follow the parameters of that order. Other than that, is there anything else from you? Okay, and other than that, I think we just need to swear the witness and start in.
Okay, stand by, please. We're now on the video record. Please note that microphones are sensitive, can pick up whispering and private conversations. We ask that you turn off cell phones or at least place them away from the microphones as they can interfere with deposition audio. Recording will continue until all parties agree to go off the record. My name is Stephen Brinson, CLVS, representing Esquire Deposition Solutions. The date today is 27 February 2019. The time is approximately 3:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This deposition is being held at Delta Airlines corporate offices located at 1030 Delta Boulevard, Atlanta 30354, and is being taken by counsel for the plaintiff. The caption for the case is Carleen Petitt, Plaintiff versus Delta Airlines Defendant. This case is filed in the United States Department of Labor Office of Administrative Law Judges. The name of the witness is Ed Bastian. At this time, would attorneys present identify themselves and the parties they represent?
Yes, for the complainant, whom you've referred to as the plaintiff, Lee Seaham, the law firm of Seaham, Meltz & Peterson, White Plains, New York.
For the respondent, Ira Rosenstein from Morgan, Lewis & Bacchius, also in New York. And with me,
Meg Taylor, Delta Airlines. Kelly Justina, Delta Airlines.
All right, thank you. Our court reporter, Marcia Welch, will swear in the witness and we can proceed.
And raise your hand, please, sir. Do you swear testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good morning.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit overworld. So I'm from New York, and I also have a plane to catch. So for those two reasons, I'm going to speak very quickly. If at any point I'm speaking too quickly, just ask me to slow down or repeat the question, and the same goes for the court reporter. So again, my name is Lee Seaham. I'm with the law firm of Seaham, Meltz & Peterson. We represent Ms. Carleen Petitt in this Air 21 lawsuit, and I'm going to be asking you some questions which you will be responding to under oath concerning her Air 21 action. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay. And what is your understanding of the Air 21 statute, if any?
I have none.
Okay. And if you do not understand any of my questions, please let me know so that I can repeat or rephrase the question for you. Do you understand?
I understand.
And do you understand that the deposition today is going to be transcribed by the court reporter and videotaped?
I do.
And do you understand that your testimony today is given under oath as if you were in a court of law?
I do.
And all of your answers to my questions must be given verbally. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay. And if you do not know an answer to a question, you should say, "You do not know. I do not expect you to guess or speculate." Do you understand that?
I do.
And could you please state your current legal name?
Edward Bastian.
And did you review any documents to prepare for your deposition today?
I did.
Okay. What documents did you review?
A small number of emails with counsel.
And nothing other than emails?
Nothing.
And what is your current position with Delta Airlines?
I'm the chief executive officer.
How long have you held that position?
3 years.
Do you remember the year and the month that you became the CEO?
It was announced in February of 2016.
And prior to assuming the position of CEO, what did you have a different position with?
I was the president of the company prior to that.
And what were the dates of your presidency?
I became president in, I believe, September of 2007, up till when I became CEO.
Okay. There you go. For the record, I've handed you a document that's dated February 10th, 2016. It recites from Ed Bastian to Carlene Petitt, with the subject line being congratulations. And do you recall receiving this email from Ms. Petitt?
I do remember hearing from Carlene. It was around the time of my appointment as CEO, yes.
And you signed this. You signed off on your response here. Best Ed. Is that a common sign off for you on your email correspondence?
Oftentimes.
And did you consider it inappropriate for Ms. Petitt to address you as Ed?
Not at all.
Now, in your response, you reference, or part of the response is, quote, looking forward to many great chapters for us to write. Could you explain what you meant by that statement?
I can't recall at the time. I presume it's because she referenced that she had written books, and I was embarking on a new chapter for myself and Delta as I took on the leadership of the company.
And what is there's a reference to, in her letter to you, to working on a PhD in aviation at ERAU. Are you familiar with
I am not.
You're not. You don't know what that means. And there's a reference to SMS. And are you familiar with what SMS refers to?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What does it refer to?
Safety management systems.
Have you ever been advised as to whether she did obtain her PhD?
No.
No. Okay. And as you were at one point the CFO at Delta?
Yes.
Okay. And what were the years of that?
That would be July of 2005 through 2008.
And do you recall a request from Ms. Petitt during that time period with respect to obtaining airline tickets for children to travel to Rome?
I do.
And was there any, do you recall anything inappropriate in terms of Ms. Petitt having brought that issue to your attention?
No, I get requests of all sorts of things.
From Delta employees?
From everyone in the world, it seems like some days.
Okay. Is it a violation of any Delta policy?
No.
And I just want to make sure we have the full question, and we both want
I
to
understand.
get this done. But is there any violation of Delta policy for an employee to make a request to the CAO concerning benefits for children or benefits for employees?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Is there any written chain of command policy at Delta that precludes a rank and file employee from emailing the CEO?
Not that I'm aware of.
This is being entered as an exhibit.
Yes, Exhibit 2. Yes,
Thank you.
correct.
Was the email exhibit 1?
Yes, sir. So you've been handled, and I'll try to make that clear as we go forward. You've been handed a document that's been marked as Exhibit 2, dated March 17th, 2016, on Delta letterhead, and signed by Captain Phil Davis with a subject line, removal from service and PWA Section 15B review. Have you seen this document before?
I don't recall seeing it, no.
Okay. Do you recall that in March of 2016, Ms. Petitt was referred for a Section 15 mental health evaluation?
I don't recall.
Did you at some time during your employ with Delta learn that Ms. Petitt had been referred for a Section 15 mental health evaluation?
I'm not familiar with Section 15, period. I was aware that there was some discussion, some medical discussions going on, but that's no details at all.
So no details about the reason why Delta, I just want to make sure I'm getting the foundation and not provoking an objection. So you knew at some point in March of 2016 that there were medical concerns related to Ms. Petitt?
No.
No.
I don't recall the timing.
Oh, okay.
But I don't never recall seeing this document.
Okay. Well, wholly aside from the document, did you learn at some time that there were expressed concerns within Delta management with respect to Ms. Petitt's mental health?
I was aware there was a medical situation regarding Ms. Petitt that flight operations management was working with there. But that is the extent of my knowledge.
Okay. And when did this knowledge come to you?
Sometime in the last 3 years. I have no recall of dates.
Other than putting mental health conditions to one side, do you have any recollection of other issues related to Ms. Petitt that were brought to your attention by Delta management representatives?
Not that I recall.
Do you know who Mr. Schinkel is? Or are you familiar with a management representative by the surname Schinkel?
Kevin Schinkel, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And have you had discussions with him concerning Ms. Petitt?
Not that I recall.
And do you know a man at Delta named Peter Carter?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And did you have any discussions with Mr. Carter related to Ms. Petitt?
Well, Peter is our general counsel, so I'm not sure relative to counsel.
You can answer whether or not you had a conversation, but not anything that was said during the conversation.
I recall having a conversation at some point, but again, can't put a time on it.
Okay. And you can't. What I'm looking for is not the exchange, but the subject matter of the discussion as it related to Ms. Petitt.
Objection.
I'm really, just to reassure you, I'm not looking for anything other than what has been identified by respondent's own privilege log. I'm just looking for the general subject matter.
Is the question asking whether or not the subject matter was Ms. Petitt or something?
So, no, beyond that, what the subject matter was, what was the general subject matter as it related to Ms. Petitt?
I don't think that could be answered without divulging privileged information. So I'll have to direct him not to answer that
Okay.
one.
Well, we may come back to that.
Okay.
So, you've been handed a document we've identified as Exhibit 3, correspondence from Kevin Schinkel to Ed Bastian, Peter Carter, and Gil West, subject line, Petitt update. Does this refresh your recollection with respect to having discussions with Kevin Schinkel in March of 2016 related to Ms. Petitt?
It does not.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I've handed you a document we've marked as Exhibit 4, and it's dated December 21st. The first email is from Barry N. Wilbur to Stephen Dixon with copies to Jim Graham, and Ken Spear. I actually want to pass to the second page, which is an email from Carlene Petitt to Richard Anderson, subject holiday request. And so the record is clear. I'm going to quickly read through the text of this, if you could follow along. It says, "Dear Richard, this is the first year I won't be home with my family for Christmas. I fly rotation 3556 on December 22nd. I've decided to make the holidays bright for my fellow crew members who will also be away from their families this holiday. I'm hosting a Christmas gathering in HNL. I'm Santa, bringing gifts for all. Surprise. I now have one Christmas wish. Would you authorize me to have a suite for my crew room in HNL? We're arriving December 24th, NRT/HNL, Flight 646. I'm one of the first officers. Thank you. As a pilot, mother of 3, and grandmother of 4, I'm the best hostess. Nothing will get out of control. Happy holidays to you and your family. XOX Carlene." As the current CO, my question is, would your receipt of an email with this text, would you consider that a violation of Delta policy?
A violation of policy?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't.
Would you consider it inappropriate?
Objection. You can answer them.
I mean, I would find it unusual, but not, I don't know if it's inappropriate. It's not hard for me to say.
Okay. Okay. And to refer you to the, and you say it's unusual. Why would you consider it unusual?
I never recall having a request like that. As I say, I get requests for lots of different, I never recall the change of room, but, you know, as I said, I get lots of requests for lots of things.
If you can refer to the first paragraph in this thread on the first page, where do you know who Mr. Wilbur is?
Very well, but yes, I do.
You know, what's his position, or what do you know what his position was in
He was
2010?
in flight operations.
Okay. And the text I want to ask you about is this is actually the second time her name came across my desk. OC forwarded the following blog to me asking about the legality about copying a page of the A330 QRH on her blog. Actually seems to be a very professional post that doesn't paint Delta in a bad light, but posting a page from the QRH is probably something she shouldn't have done. I'm asking for verification on that. I will get with OC on this letter. My question, prefatory question, is are you familiar with what the A330 QRH is?
No.
Okay. Well, that means I won't ask you any more questions about that. I've handed you a document we've marked as Exhibit 5. Starts out, hello, Carlene, and the signature block is from Clay McConnell of Airbus Americas. I'm just going to read the first paragraph, just to have background for the record. It says, hello, Carlene, I've been meaning to drop you a line, wanted to you to know that we thought your blog entry giving a general pilot audience more insight into what a, quote, green, unquote, dot is was well written and useful for a better understanding of this feature. Thanks for contacting us on that. And, of course, feel free to be in touch with Airbus at any time if we can provide any information or offer any clarifications that can help your readers. Have you ever been provided with this email?
No.
Okay. Have you been, has anyone ever provided you with information about Ms. Petitt's social media activities?
No.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge of Ms. Petitt ever being subject to discipline while employed at Delta?
No.
No. And do you have any knowledge of Ms. Petitt having engaged in misconduct while employed at Delta?
No.
Have you ever complained to anyone about Ms. Petitt's conduct?
No.
Did you consider any of her correspondence with you to be in violation of Delta's rules of conduct or Delta's policies?
No.
Did any of her correspondence to you ever cause you concern about her mental health?
No.
Did you ever complain to anyone concerning Ms. Petitt's correspondence with you?
No.
Did you consider any of her correspondence to be annoying?
No.
Have you provided copies of her correspondence to you, to other persons?
No. Well, I mean, let me rephrase that. I certainly forwarded, certain emails.
Okay.
But not copies.
Okay.
Was your question?
Do you recall which emails you forwarded?
There were some that we had a review session this morning on.
Do you recall the subject matter of any of the emails that you forwarded to others?
No.
Do you know the reason why you would have forwarded any of her emails to others.
The reason, as I recall from seeing the emails this morning, was that Carlene had raised some concerns around safety.
Okay. Do you recall what those issues were?
No, I was not aware of them.
Now, are you familiar with the acronym SMS?
With the safety management systems that
Okay.
we use.
And what is your understanding of SMS?
I'm not a pilot or a technician, but I understand it. It's one of our core systems by which we measure the safety of the operation and monitor it and make improvements.
And what is your understanding of the components of SMS?
I don't have the components off the top of my head. I have no idea.
Would you have had a superior knowledge of SMS and/or its components in the year 2016?
A superior knowledge?
Yeah, more knowledge than you have right now.
I don't know.
I mean, how would you describe your current involvement with the Delta SMS program?
Well, SMS is a broad acronym, and there's a lot that falls underneath that relative to safety metrics. So we measure and track an awful lot of safety measures for the system. So you can talk about SMS, and I think the clarity of what you're talking to, it gets into the metrics itself.
But I'm asking you what your personal involvement is in SMS compliance.
I don't have one.
And I understand that answer to be with respect to today. Was there a time when you did have some participation?
I'm not qualified as either a pilot or a flight operations leader to actually have responsibility for the development or the tracking of SMS. That'd be outside my specific range of expertise.
But my question is, was there a time during your tenure at Delta where you had more involvement in SMS compliance than you have today?
No, not that I recall.
You became CEO of Delta in the month of February 2017?
16.
Oh, pardon me, February 2016. Do you have any role currently in promoting flight operations safety culture?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what is that role?
Safety is our priority across all aspects of our business. It's our number one priority.
And what role do you play?
As the company's chief executive, I put it right at the top of my list as one of the very most important thing that we do for our employees as well as our customers and communities.
And week to week, what activities do you engage in that promote flight operations safety culture, if any?
Well, again, I don't focus specifically on flight operations. I focus on the safety of the entire operation. I'll be involved in meetings. I'll get reports. I'll be in town halls with employees to talk about the importance of safety, both personal as well as operational.
And are there weekly meetings, daily meetings? How frequently?
I will get weekly reports on the safety of our operations.
And that's a compendium report, including all aspects of the operation?
No, it's a summary report.
Summary. So flight operations is in those reports with
All other operations, yes.
Okay. And is SMS discussed in those weekly reports?
I can't recall of SMS specifically, but again, all the metrics that SMS measures are tracked within it, yes.
Okay. And aside from these reports, are there face-to-face meetings with department heads regarding safety issues?
Yes.
And how often do you have meetings with flight op representatives concerning safety?
My meetings with safety, again, are all aspects of safety, not just flight ops. So I'll meet with our safety lead at least once a month to go through it.
I got short arms. I'm going to. We've handed you a document we've identified as Delta. I'm going to take a
It's 6.
composure moment. Yeah, we've handed you a document we've identified as Exhibit 6. It's on Delta letterhead with the title Corporate Safety, Security, and Compliance Safety Management System. Under that, a subheading of a revision log. And I want you to refer, if you would, please, to the 6th entry at 14 February 17, revision 25. And if you look at the 4th bullet point, which reads accountable executive change from CEO to COO throughout document. My question with that background is, until February 4th, or prior to February 14th, 2017, would you agree that you functioned as the accountable executive for the SMS program at Delta?
You know,
Objection. You can answer the question if you know the answer. But
I'm not familiar with the specific reason why this was changed, but as I said earlier, you know, you don't delegate accountability for safety within the company, and as the top officer in the company, safety is my priority.
But my question is, actually, I'm going to pause. Could you read back what my question was?
Would you agree that you functioned as the accountable executive for the SMS program at Delta?
And that what I'd like to add to that is prior to February 14th, 2017.
objection. If you're asking him to interpret the document, which
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm asking if he knows whether prior to February 14th, 2017, he was the accountable executive for the SMS program at Delta.
That's a fair question. You can answer that question.
No.
I'm sorry, you don't know?
As I said, my responsibility for safety is all aspects of safety throughout the company. I'm not the direct responsible leader for SMS in the company, no.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand your answer. Is your answer that you don't know, or that you were not the accountable executive?
Well, my answer is I've never seen this revision log, so I wouldn't. It's pretty hard for me to answer your question.
Okay. But so let's forget let's not reference the revision log. Were you at any time the accountable executive for the SMS program at Delta?
I'm not sure what accountable executive means.
Okay. Okay.
Was this document produced in discovery? Because I see it doesn't have a Bates stamp.
The one I just gave you?
Defendants, Exhibit 6.
Yeah, I'm pretty darn confident it was, but, and I know it was used in a prior, I'll we
Okay.
can get back to
We
you.
can just make a note to check.
We used it in prior,
Okay.
actually, you know what? We used it in the motion that got us here.
I think that may be true, but
Yeah.
that's not the same as producing it.
Yeah,
So. But okay. Well,
Okay. All right.
it is what it is.
So, we've handed you a document that's identified as Exhibit 7. It's on FAA letterhead from the Office of Audit Evaluation, addressed to Carlene Petitt. And I want to, by way of preface to this question, read the first paragraph that says, "Dear Ms. Petitt, the FAA's Flight Standards Service has completed their investigation of your air carrier safety allegations in case number EWB 16637. The investigation substantiated that a violation of an order, regulation, or standard of the FAA related to air carrier safety occurred. Accordingly, the FAA is taking appropriate corrective action and/or enforcement action. Our office will monitor these actions until complete." My first question is, were you ever provided a copy of this September 8th, 2016 document?
No.
Okay. Were you ever provided with knowledge that the FAA had substantiated a violation of federal aviation standards based on Ms. Petitt's reports?
No.
I provided you a document that we have marked as Exhibit 8. It's an email thread, the first page from Carlene Petitt to Ed Bastian. And if you could look at the first page and tell me if you recall receiving this email correspondence from Ms. Petitt.
I don't have a specific recall of this, no.
Now, if you look at the last paragraph, the first sentence reads, "Research indicates that the CEO must be notified if risk falls into a red category on the ICAO risk matrix, and we have a few areas that do." Are you familiar with the acronym ICAO?
I am.
Okay. And what does ICAO stand for?
It's the International Audit Organization. I forget exactly what it stands for, but I know who it is.
Okay.
Safety organization.
And reading this now, would you understand Ms. Petitt to be communicating that there are compliance issues with regard to flight operations that she was concerned about?
Reading this now, I would tell you that Carlene, her personal opinion was that she had some concerns.
Concerns related to what?
Related to the red category. Not sure what they were.
Okay. Did you ask anybody what she meant, or what red category on the ICAO risk matrix signified in terms of flight operations?
Well, as I can see on the same document, I forwarded along to the, I actually saw in an earlier email and prep that I forwarded this along to Captain Dixon and Graham.
Okay, and why did you forward it to them?
Because any employee that's mentioning concern around safety requires it be assessed and evaluated.
Now, there's a reference here to, if we move up one paragraph, the prior paragraph reads, coincidentally, I submitted a lengthy report to Captains Dixon and Graham last month with my concerns as to flight operations culture, safety culture that is not in alignment with our core values and most important behaviors. Unfortunately, we have current practices that also do not support the 2018 FAA Safety Management Systems SMS mandates. As you follow up to my report, I've been asked to deliver an SMS presentation April 4th, 10 a.m. in Atlanta, which will focus on safety culture. Now, at this point in March of 2016, did Delta have an SMS program in place? Do you know?
I believe so.
Okay. And it was, would you agree with me that under the Federal Aviation Regulations, Delta was required to have an SMS program in place?
Absolutely.
Okay, and under the Federal Aviation Regulations, Delta is required to comply with its SMS program, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you appear to have responded just up from the paragraph I read. Thanks, Carlene. I would appreciate seeing the report, and we'll be sure to follow up. Ed, did you receive a copy of the report that she was referencing?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you follow up with her?
I did follow up with Carlene. I followed up by sending the note along to Captains Dixon and Graham.
Okay, so if you look at the second page, the second email is from Ed Bastian to Stephen Dixon and Jim Graham. It says, if you guys can brief me, thanks, Ed. And the response above is will do. Is that the exchange that you had with Steve Dixon and Jim Graham concerning Ms. Petitt's communication?
Yes.
And did either Mr. Dixon, Captain Dixon, or Captain Graham, or both ever brief you with respect to the SMS issues and ICAO risk matrix issues?
I don't recall.
I've handed you a document that's been marked as Exhibit 9. The top of the page is from Brendan Brannon to Chris Puckett. Just for the record, it's Bates stamp DLT 20238 to 20239. And moving down the page, there's an email from Stephen Dixon to Jim Graham, subject line safety culture. It reads, thanks, Jim. We will need to brief Ed, then also draft a short reply I'm fine with you briefing him, but we'll see how he wants to handle MPM work calendar on Monday. Does this refresh your recollection as to whether Captain Dixon and or Captain Graham briefed you with respect to the issues raised by Ms. Petitt?
It does not.
Did you provide input to Captain Dixon or Captain Graham in terms of how you wanted them to handle the issues raised by Ms. Petitt?
Only other than the note that you saw that asked to debrief, and when I suggest briefing, that implies that I want them to evaluate, and to the extent I need to be updated, to update me.
Did you ever get an update from either of them?
I don't recall.
I've provided you with a document we've identified as Exhibit 10. Reads subject 430P ET Carlene Petitt update, location Ed's office, start Wednesday 3/9/2016 4:30 p.m. end Wednesday March 9, 2016 5 p.m. Recurrence none, meeting status accepted. Organizer Ed Bastian, Jim Graham, Peter Carter. Would you agree that you initiated a meeting with respect to Ms. Petitt from March 9th, 2016?
No, I don't know how to organize meetings, so I assume my secretary must have done that for me.
Okay. Did you ask your secretary to organize a meeting regarding Ms. Petitt?
I did not. Not that I recall. It's
Did you have a meeting on or about March 9th, 2016 regarding Ms. Petitt?
I don't recall.
And Peter Carter is
It's our general counsel.
General. Would you agree that safety promotion is a core component of SMS?
Yes.
Would you agree that risk management is a core component of SMS?
Yes.
Would you agree that safety assurance is a core component of SMS?
Yes.
Do you know whether following the risk matrix referenced in Ms. Petitt's email is an FAA requirement?
I'm not that familiar in the details.
And you never responded directly to Ms. Petitt with respect to the issues that she raised in her March 5th, 2016 email, correct?
Not that I recall.
Okay. You know that Ms. Petitt had a meeting with Captains Dixon and Graham on or about January 28th, 2016, to during which a safety report that she had prepared was discussed, correct?
Only in as much as the email suggests that, but no, I had no detail of that meeting.
Ooh, completely sorry. Told you you'd have to intervene. I provided you with a document that's been identified as Exhibit 12, titled at the top, Assessment of Delta Airlines Flight Operations Safety Culture, bait stamped C178 through C220. You received this document, correct?
I don't recall seeing this, no.
I'm sorry, so you don't recall ever seeing this document?
I do not.
Do you recall do you recall anyone discussing with you safety issues? Strike that. Do you recall anyone within Delta discussing with you safety and/or compliance issues that Ms. Petitt had raised in a written report?
I do not recall that, no.
Put a while. If you could turn to the fourth page of the document I just gave you. I'm asking you to move down towards the bottom, just above where a series of 5 bullet points occurs, and starting with the line statements from Delta. Do you see where I am?
Yes?
Okay. So, by way of background, again, for the record, the statements from Delta Senior Flight Operations Management indicating essence of Delta culture include, quote, if there was a better way, Delta would already be doing it, unquote. Quote, stop writing emails, there's nothing you can say that they don't already know, unquote. Quote, you should stop all this writing and drink more beer, unquote. Quote, at Delta we have the power to do what we want, unquote. Quote, you're not the first person who gets multiple retaliatory line checks, close quote. So with respect to bullet point 1, if there was a better way, Delta would already be doing it. For a manager to say that to a pilot, would you agree with me that that is non-compliant with Delta's SMS program?
It's not compliant with our corporate culture. I don't know what's specific to SMS about that.
Okay. But you understand that part of SMS, or would you agree that safety culture is a core component of SMS?
Safety is core to our culture, period.
Yes, but that's not my question. My question is, would you agree?
SMS is a tracking vehicle. The culture is about safety, and the priority for our airline is about safety.
Would you agree that the promotion of safety culture is a core component of SMS?
Again, I'm not familiar with what SMS includes, but I can tell you that safety is core to the operation of our airline.
With respect to the second bullet point, stop writing emails, there's nothing you can say that they don't already know. Do you have an opinion as to whether that is compliant with Delta's SMS program?
Again, I'm not an SMS expert, but I know the core component of safety is making certain that we get all information reported, whatever's happening. So no, I would say that's not compliant.
Okay. The third bullet point is, quote, you should stop all this writing and drink more beer. Do you have an opinion as to a statement by a flight ops manager to a pilot in those terms is compliant with Delta's?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question? You're kind of talking about...
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. I'll start over so we can strike what I've said up till now. That third bullet point, which states you should stop all this writing and drink more beer. Do you have an opinion as to whether a flight manager saying that to a pilot is compliant with Delta's SMS program?
That is not compliant with our safety culture, no.
And the fourth bullet point, at Delta we have the power to do what we want. Do you have an opinion as to whether that statement from a flight manager to a pilot is compliant with Delta's SMS program?
That would not be compliant with our safety culture, no.
And the fifth bullet point, you're not the first person who gets multiple retaliatory line checks. Do you have an opinion as to whether that statement from a flight manager to a pilot is compliant with Delta's SMS program?
That would not be compliant with our safety culture, no.
Did anyone at Delta ever bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised these issues?
I don't recall, no.
You said you're not familiar with the Section 15 process?
I am not.
Are you familiar with any specific cases involving a pilot's referral for a mental health evaluation other than that of Ms. Petitt?
Objection. Foundation.
I understand. Well, no, I don't understand.
Well,
but if you...
Well, I don't think there's evidence in the record he's familiar with anything having to do with Ms. Petitt either. So the question was...
Okay.
There was no foundation for the second part of the question.
I think you may have misunderstood my question. Putting Ms. Petitt to one side, are you familiar with any specific cases of a pilot being referred for a mental health evaluation?
Not specifically, no.
Do you recall ever having been briefed about a pilot's mental health issues?
I don't recall, no.
And do you recall ever being briefed with regard to safety or compliance issues raised by a specific pilot?
We talk about safety and culture and opportunities to improve all the time, so it's a pretty open-ended question.
No, I meant it to be very narrow, so let me try again. Do you recall being briefed on safety issues raised by a specific individual pilot in the past?
Not specific to a pilot, no.
Now, you know who Captain O.C. Miller is?
I do.
Okay, and how long has he been with the company?
I think he's actually left the company at this point, but he was there for quite a while.
I guess is this I have that it would be 13. What did you mark this? Or
We're definitely up to 12 if that's what you're...
I thought I'm at 13, but oh, okay. Would you mind passing us that pile of exhibits? I want to make sure we don't get off on the road. Just the whole pile, if you would. Just trying to figure out what we're missing. Do you mind paging through with me?
Okay,
So,
this is the last
yeah.
one we did, so is that this one? This is
Yeah.
this one, that's 11.
Yeah, and then that's 10. All right, so then 11, 10, and then
That's 9. Oh, no,
yeah.
that's 10.
That's 10, okay. All right, so I'll do this later. So this one we've just handed you saying that's
It's 12.
12. Okay, thank you. We've handed you a document dated February 21st, 2019, Carlene Petitt versus Delta Airlines on U.S. Department of Labor letterhead, and I want to turn you to page 5 and footnote 11. Which reads, specifically, the parties agreed to the following. Delta stipulates that complainant's January 28th, 2016 complainant's report that raised issues concerning pilot fatigue, pilot training records, and Delta safety management systems, SMS programs, qualifies as protected conduct under the Wendell H. Ford Aviation Investment and Reform Act for the 21st Century, Air 21. Now, did anyone ever bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised compliance issues relating to pilot fatigue?
Not that I recall, no.
Did anyone ever bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised compliance issues with respect to pilot training?
Not that I recall, no.
Did anyone at Delta ever bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised issues related to pilot training records?
Not that I recall.
And did anyone at Delta ever raise or bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised issues related to Delta's compliance with its SMS program?
Not that I recall.
Okay. If you could turn to page 7 of the same document and refer to footnote 16. Which reads, even if the parties had not so stipulated, the tribunal would find that complainant's submittal of her safety report to respondent's management constituted protected activity. Her report details issues with the respondent's safety management system, SMS, a FAA-mandated program, C14 CFR Part 5. Complainant's report contains specific alleged incidents of respondent's management's effort to suppress employee reports of safety-related incidents and concerns. Complainant also reported issues with respondent's implementation of flight and duty limitations and rest, and complainant provided accounts of respondent pressuring its pilots to fly while fatigued. And my questions are, did anyone at Delta ever bring to your attention that Ms. Petitt had raised issues concerning Delta pressuring its pilots to fly while fatigued?
No.
Objection asked and answered.
And did anyone at Delta ever bring to your attention specific alleged incidents alleged by Ms. Petitt with respect to Delta's effort to suppress employee reports of safety-related incidents and concerns?
Not that I can recall.
I've provided you with a document which is 13, Exhibit 13, and it's titled, it's on U.S. Department of Labor letterhead, dated 17 January 2019, titled Order Granting Complainants Motion to Amend Her Pleading Complaint. And I want to draw your attention, first of all, have you seen this document before?
No.
Okay. And if I could ask you to turn your attention to the second page, under the title Discussion, the second paragraph under that title that begins the facts upon. You see where I am?
Yes.
Okay, so the paragraph reads, the facts upon which the complainant seeks amendment of her complaint stem from actions that took place in the middle of discovery in these proceedings. Complainant contends that respondent designated a safety report she generated as, quote, confidential information, unquote, subject to a protective order issued by the tribunal, and threatened her with legal consequences if she failed to adhere to the respondent's designation. Complainant maintains this is an additional adverse action perpetrated by a respondent upon complainant. My question is, do you have prior knowledge of this specific allegation?
No.
Yes. Before I ask you questions about this document, is there an open door policy in existence at Delta?
I certainly try to do my best to promote an open door environment, yes.
And what does that signify to you, an open door policy?
Accessibility, so that, you know, if there's any concern or question from any of our employees, they have direct access to me, and I try to make certain that they get attended to. I'm going to refer you to the second page, third paragraph of an email that appears to be between O.C. Miller and Jim Graham, or from Jim Graham to O.C. Miller, and refer you to the third paragraph thereof, which reads, maybe she didn't understand that the IAAS conference that she was attending was a safety conference, ?
but glad to meet with her any time. Probably good to engage HR again at this point, given this latest email to Phil, as I believed we could find ourselves being accused of inappropriate wrongdoing by her, and we need to start tracking for this phase. I also think we should consider whether a Section 15 is appropriate. While I'm sure she would find issue with that course of action, if she cannot embrace and understand the reasons behind our actions, it stands to reason she might not be able to make appropriate decisions for the safe operation of a flight as a crew member. My question is, Mr. Bastian, were you advised by Mr. Graham or any other management representative of Delta that a Section 15 referral was being contemplated for Ms. Petitt in November of 2015?
No.
And if I could refer you to the second to last page. I'm sorry, the last page. Which begins, okay about the meeting. Richard was an absolutely eloquent speaker. And if I could jump down to the third to last line, he said safety belongs to every person. Would it be your view that that reflects Delta's policy that safety belongs to every person at Delta Airlines?
Yes.
And would you agree that it's Delta's SMS policy to allow every pilot to have unfettered access to management representatives to express their safety concerns?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge of Delta's social media policies as they apply to individual employees?
I mean, that's a very broad
Are
statement.
are you knowledgeable of any restrictions imposed on employees with respect to social media?
There are restrictions, clearly. Not sure what specifics to the policy you're referring to, but yeah, we certainly have social media policies.
And is there, are you aware of any policies in terms of the publication of Delta proprietary information?
Sure.
And what policies are you familiar with?
You're referring to an employee's ability to publish something that's Delta proprietary material?
Correct.
I would believe that'd be inappropriate.
And what does Delta provide as the appropriate response by Delta management in the event that there's a publication of proprietary information?
I think that's left to the individual manager to implement. Certainly depends on the nature of the infraction.
And are you familiar with the concepts of progressive? Are you familiar with the concept of progressive discipline?
No.
No. I provided you with a document which has been marked Exhibit 15. It's from Steve Dixon to Jim Graham, dated November 16th, and then proceeds to an email exchange between Steve Dixon and Jim Graham, and then down to another one, email exchange between Steve Dixon and Jim Graham, dated November 16th, 2015. And the two sentences I want to read as background go, "Here we go, just FYI. I will brief HR and handle this with kid gloves. She could be a candidate for a Section 15 after this goes through. She continues to see herself as the victim and refuses to accept that she cannot just use Delta proprietary information as her own, as well as Delta pictures. Open parenthesis, aircraft QRH, volume 1, etc., close parenthesis, and intellectual knowledge will keep you informed." Were you ever advised that in November of 2015, Delta managers were considering a Section 15 referral in response to violations by Ms. Petitt of Delta's policies relating to proprietary information?
Objection to the form of the question, but you can answer.
No, it wasn't.
Two elements.
Different exhibits for the same exhibit?
No, different. They're I've handed you exhibits that we've marked Exhibit 16 and 17. 16 is an invoice from Dr. David Altman, dated January 25th, 2017, showing a total charge of $60,263.45 on the second page. And Exhibit 17 reflects an additional charge of $13,660. My question to you is, were you aware that charges for Ms. Petitt's psychiatric examination directed by Delta cost over $73,000?
No.
Now, who in the flight department would be authorized to approve such an expense at that dollar level? Do you know?
I don't know what the specific authorization levels within flight ops are.
Were you ever told that Ms. Petitt's subsequent analysis by the Mayo Clinic cost $3,300?
No.
Do you have knowledge that Captain Graham invited Ms. Petitt to give a safety presentation to 5 divisional leaders at Delta?
No.
So this is 18, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to what we've identified a document as Exhibit 18. If you could turn to the second page, titled Safety Culture, Ethnographic Study of Delta Airlines, Research and Report by Carleen Petitt, that goes from DA 145 to DA 196. Did you ever receive a copy of this report?
I did not.
We
Go ahead.
I'll provide you with a document we've identified as Exhibit 19, an email from Jim Graham to you dated May 16th, 2016. And did you receive this email from Captain Graham on May 16th, 2016?
I must have.
Okay. And if you look down, there's a email exchange between you and Ms. Petitt on May 16, reading, Dear Ed, I mailed the safety report on May 3rd to the Atlanta office. I just wanted to confirm you received it. Thank you. Did you receive a safety report from her?
I don't recall receiving it.
And Captain Graham writes to you on the same day, Thanks, Ed. I believe this is the dialogue of the presentation she gave to Flight Ops and CSSC leaders 2 weeks ago. I will verify and get back to you tomorrow with a recommended response. What does CSSC refer to?
Don't know exactly. Probably corporate safety, some nature.
Okay, do you recall what Captain Graham's recommended response was?
I don't.
We've handed you an exhibit that we've identified as Exhibit 20, letterhead from David P. Altman, M.D., title of Psychiatric Evaluation, Carlene Petitt. And if you could turn to the second page, you'll see there's a cut and paste of an email from you to Steve Dixon and Jim Graham stating if you guys can brief me, thanks Ed, and below that Carlene Petitt's email to you of March 5th starting off saying, Ed, I just finished taking your Delta Culture Survey, thank you. If you go down the page from there, the third line when we get to the typewritten material states she was told never to go outside of the chain of command. And at the bottom, beyond the end of that paragraph, starting a new one-sentence paragraph, it reads, also note that she addresses Mr. Bastian as, quote, Ed, unquote, undue familiarity is associated with mania. Did you, were you ever advised that her reference to you as Ed contributed to the psychiatrist's psychiatric evaluation or adverse psychiatric evaluation of Ms. Petitt?
Objection. Foundation. You can answer the question if you understood.
I had no knowledge of any of this evaluation.
If you could turn to the next page, date stamp C00491, and there's a handwritten note that begins, Ed, we have one of the most successful airlines in the world. At the bottom, Carlene, FO 767. Did you provide this handwritten note to psychiatrist Dr. Altman?
I never recall seeing this, no.
You don't recall ever seeing this note?
Mm.
You have to answer yes or no.
Oh, sorry. The question is?
You
Could you
answered
just
it.
read back the question? Because he
Yeah, I'll ever say
I'll withdraw the question. And if you,
no, well, he answered it.
Okay.
He just didn't say yes or no. So,
Okay. I mean, I'm satisfied with the answer.
well, it's not an answer. So I'd like him to.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought the answer I thought was fine was he said I've never seen this note.
No, but the second question.
Okay, sure. If you want to clarify them.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. That's all right.
Can you just verbalize what your answer was to the last question when you said?
I'm not sure what the last question was.
I understand. The court will read it back to you, and then you can answer it with a.
You don't recall ever saying this.
I don't.
Thank you.
Do you recall anyone ever approaching you and asking you to authorize the transfer of any correspondence or notes from Ms. Petitt to a psychiatrist?
I don't know.
Okay. get one copy. That's
Thank you.
We've provided you a document we have identified as Exhibit 21, excerpts of the deposition of Steve Dixon, October 31st, 2018. And in 2016, do you know what Captain Stephen Dixon's title was at Delta?
In 2016, you said?
Yes, correct.
He was head of flight operations.
I want to direct your attention to, if you can flip through, I think it's the fourth to last page, but in any case, if you can look at the pagination on the upper right, if you could turn to page 78.
78?
Yeah. Look at, for the pagination at the upper right.
Right.
Right, and if you can go down to line 22, which reads, and so we sought the assistance of an outside auditor. We felt that would be a healthy process for us to go through at that point in time, and the catalyst for that, frankly, I think we would have done it anyway, but certainly a catalyst for it was the meeting with Carlene. My question is, did Captain Dixon or anyone else tell you, ever advise you that Ms. Petitt was a catalyst for bringing in an outside auditor for Delta's flight operation practices?
I don't recall. No.
Okay. Now, there were, in 2016, there were multiple employee surveys, safety surveys, correct, conducted at Delta Airlines?
Surveys, employee surveys broadly, yes, multiple.
But-
Exclusive to safety?
Yes.
Safety is a part of our surveying process, sure.
And do you recall what the results of those surveys were?
I don't recall specifically what you're talking to.
Do you recall the surveys indicating that Delta's reporting culture needed improvement?
Again, you'd have to be pretty specific. We get surveys all the time
Okay,
of,
so
of all variety. I don't know what you're.
No specific recollection with respect to survey results indicating a need for improvement of Delta's reporting culture?
Specific to reporting culture, I don't recall seeing that.
Do you remember a pronouncement at Delta relating to the, quote, first ever safety day, unquote?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know who Gil West is?
I do.
Do you recall appearing in a video with Mr. West on DeltaNet?
I've appeared in many.
Many with Mr. West?
Yes.
Okay. And you recall stating in one of them that you had your employees' backs and encouraged them to come forward with safety information?
Absolutely.
And would you agree with me that reporting culture is a component of SMS?
Sure.
And why did you feel it necessary to tell Delta employees that you had their backs with respect to safety reports?
Well, it's always important that our employees know that they can trust, in a trusted way, come forward with any concerns they have about the operation or any other aspects of their job.
Okay. And why is it important?
Employees need to know that there's no fear of retribution or retaliation.
Well, why would that be important?
Why would it be important that employees not fear that they're being retaliated? It's
Yes.
pretty obvious.
Uh-huh.
Why would an employee want to report something if they feel like it could be held against them?
So
we have no compromising on that. You know, we will not allow any action for an employee acting in good faith to be retaliated towards.
And that's in the interest of promoting operational safety?
It's in the interest of running a good airline in every respect.
Are you familiar? Do you have any knowledge of? Are you familiar with the Section 15 review process with respect to the company medical examiner making an initial evaluation and then progressing to a pilot medical examiner?
Objection asked and answered.
No.
Okay. Do you know who Ms. Kelly Neighbors is? Kelly Neighbors, Kelleynabors.
I do know who Kelly is.
Okay. Do you know what her position is?
She works at one point in HR. I'm not sure what her current role is.
Are you familiar with her training?
No,
Okay. Has she ever held a position within flight ops?
I can't recall.
Provide you with a document that's been marked as Exhibit 22 with the title Petitt Action Plan, and it's date stamped 22909 through 22913. And I want to direct your attention to the third page, date stamp 22911. And direct your attention to the last solid black bullet point at the end, reading flight instructor. Well, let me back up a second here. Does Delta have a training program for its pilots?
Yes.
And do they have written documents that govern how that training is performed?
Sure.
And those documents have to be approved by the FAA, correct?
Yes.
Now, if you look at the bottom of that page where I have that last bullet point, flight training instructor Albion during A330 training did not give oral, showed up 10 minutes prior to sim box entry time, falsified documents concerning items satisfactorily completed, texted continuously during sim training session. Would you, oh, I'm sorry, and there's one more on the next page. Performance noted by instructor pilot, place pilot in special training and checking staff. Would you agree with me that under this black bullet point, there are issues raised with respect to compliance with Delta's FAA-approved training protocols?
Objection, foundation. I mean, I've let these go, but you haven't.
Yeah, I understand there's an objection foundation, and I would rather we avoided some coaching here. If you want to direct them not to answer, that's I guess that's a verb.
Well, I don't want to waste everybody's time.
Well, there's an order from the judge here, and that allows us to go into SMS issues, training issues, protected activity.
Yeah,
And
you know, the court gave you 3 hours, but that he didn't require you to use the 3 hours and just take the time up of Delta's CEO.
I won't if you can come to a conclusion and let me proceed.
That question is not, there's no foundation for that question. You show the witness a document, you haven't identified what the document is, you haven't identified the witness has ever seen the document, and you've read some language in a document, and then you ask them a question. So, you know, I think the objection would be sustained on those grounds, and you should consider rephrasing the question so that you could get the answer you want. That's my suggestion. But if you don't want to do it,
No, I don't.
then you can ask him to answer. We can have the question read back, and we can see if he can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Could you read back the question, please? You know what? Just to save you some time, are you ready to resume? I'm referring to these 4 bullet points at the bottom of page 22911. Would you agree with me that these bullet points identify issues related to non-compliance with Delta's FAA-approved pilot training documents?
If true, that'd be correct.
Okay. If you could turn the page. And I'm going to refer you to the 4th bullet point up from the bottom. Oh, thank you. Which reads, forced to fly even though fatigued due to caring for a hospitalized husband. Pilot claims PSC representative Stearns told her sick husband does not qualify as sick for her. But by way of foundation, would you agree that Delta has a published program pursuant to which it educates pilots with respect to their obligation to withdraw from service if they're fatigued?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that the FAA requires Delta to have such a policy?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that this reference bullet point that I read previously raises an FAA compliance issue?
I don't know. Not specific enough to the FAA requirements on a sick husband.
Okay. Would you agree with me that a pilot who is forced to fly when fatigued, strike that, would you agree with me that if a Delta manager forces an individual pilot to fly after she advises that she's fatigued, would be in violation of Delta's FAA-approved fatigue policy?
It certainly would be counter to the culture of our organization. I'd have to reference the specific FAA fatigue policy to answer your question in more detail.
So as you sit here today, you don't know whether it's contrary to Delta's published Delta's FAA-approved fatigue policy to force a pilot?
We certainly do not force pilots to fly fatigued. I think there's some judgment that's required of that and an evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking me the policy specifics, and I'm not familiar with those details.
You're not knowledgeable as to whether Delta has a written FAA-approved policy that prohibits its managers from coercing a pilot to fly fatigue?
I'm saying our fatigue policy complies with the FAA requirements.
And I'm asking you about the content.
I have not seen our fatigue policy in quite a long time.
Okay, so you don't know, as you sit here today, whether that policy prohibits a flight manager from coercing a pilot into flying fatigue?
Objection. Yes. You can answer it.
I would, again, I answered the question already. I think that would be inconsistent with the values of the corporation and the safety culture we've discussed. However, you'd have to ask the specific manager the background on the topic in order to evaluate, indeed, is it a fatigue situation or not? I don't know, is the answer.
Okay. Could you read back the last question?
He answered the question already. I think that would be inconsistent with the value of the corporation and the safety culture we discussed. However, you would have to ask the specific manager the background on the topic in order to evaluate indeed if it is a fatigue situation involved.
No, I'm sorry, my question.
Oh.
That's all right.
You don't know sitting here today whether that policy prohibits a flight manager from coercing a pilot to fly fatigued.
And your answer to that is, I don't know?
No, my answer was that would not be consistent with our policies. But you're getting into a specific detail that I don't have any information regarding.
And my specific question would be, would that be in violation of Delta's FAA-approved fatigue policy?
To coerce a pilot to fly fatigued?
Yes.
We would not do that, no.
That's not responsive to my question.
He's
My
answered
question-
and answered. I'm
I'm
not
not
going to
an
badger
expert.
him with more questions,
Yeah.
so move on.
No.
The record will reflect his answer.
No,
And you can move on. You can make a note if you don't like the answer. But ask another question.
Are you directing him not to answer that
He's
question?
answered it 5 times. I think
He
we're
has
willing
never,
to
what he has never done is answer
watch
the
your
question.
tone, sir.
What he has never done, is that tone acceptable to you?
It
What he,
isn't.
what he has never done is answer the question as to whether a manager's coercion of a pilot to fly fatigued is in violation of Delta's FAA-approved fatigue policy.
It's your opinion, and you can certainly take that, make that opinion known. That's your opinion.
Are you directing him not to answer that question now?
Well, he's answered it already. If you want to ask him again,
Okay.
you can. It's your deposition, so if you want to ask him this question again and see what the witness responds, you certainly can. That's within your rights. I'm not directing him in any way.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Sir, would you agree with me that it's a violation of Delta's FAA-approved pilot fatigue policy to coerce a pilot to fly while fatigued?
No.
You-
No, meaning we would not coerce a pilot to fly while fatigued.
And so it would be a violation of that FAA-approved
We would
Delta
never
policy.
coerce any employee to operate in a fatigued manner.
I'm asking whether you know if that would be a violation of Delta's FAA-approved fatigue policy.
I'm not specifically familiar with the details of our fatigue policy with the FAA. I'd have to reference it. But as I answered about 5 times, we would never coerce an employee to operate an equipment of any variety in our airline under a fatigued setting.
Yeah. Again, it's not my question whether Delta would do it or not. The question is whether that act would
Well, if you bring me the policy, I can answer it specifically.
so the
I'd
answer
say
is
it'd
the-
be inconsistent with our culture, is what
Okay,
I'm saying.
so you don't know.
I don't know what that specific policy states, but it would be inconsistent with how we operate this airline.
have about 6 minutes before necessary media change.
Thank you. I was about to propose, because I'm cutting a lot of questions, and it might be time efficient if we took a 10-minute break. Is that agreeable to you? You can replace the video, and I could try to reduce this outline.
If the goal is to end earlier than
Yeah,
allotted 3
no.
hours, then I certainly
Yeah.
will agree to
Sure.
to that.
Thank you.
This concludes recording Unit 1 and the deposition of Ed Bastian in case number 2018-AIR-00041, filed in the United States Department of Labor, Office of Administrative Law Judges. Current time is 5:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are off the video record.